The gate slammed shut at 4:47 p.m., steel chain rattling, as the first blizzard warning sirens wailed across our mountain road. My daughter's wheelchair van sat trapped on the wrong side, snow already swirling, while Diane watched from her porch, arms crossed, smiling. I'm Rachel Coyle, single mother to Emma, 16. A bright kid with cerebral palsy who loves stargazing from our cabin porch every October. Pinewood Ridge HOA required every resident to obey Diane Fessler, the self-appointed queen of gate codes, mailbox colors, and mandatory beige shutters. Diane had run this community for 11 years, collecting grudges the way other people collect stamps, filing complaints like sacred scripture. Our cabin needed a permanent ramp for Emma's chair, approved months earlier, yet Diane kept rescheduling the inspection that would finalize it. Emma's medical van, wrapped in soft blue decals, was quiet, clean, and parked exactly where our permit allowed, never blocking anyone's driveway. Still, Diane left a note on our windshield calling the van an eyesore lowering property values, signed with her looping, self-important signature. I replied politely, citing our HOA-approved accessibility permit, hoping logic alone might soften a woman who thrived on being obeyed. Diane responded by scheduling a community concerns meeting, listing our family first, right between fence height and holiday light violations. At the meeting, she read my daughter's disability like gossip, calling wheelchair vans commercial-looking, while neighbors shifted uncomfortably in folding chairs. I stood, voice shaking, and explained federal accessibility law, but Diane cut me off, tapping her gavel like she owned justice itself. That night, a new sign appeared at our shared gate. Resident vehicles only, no exceptions, clearly aimed only at Emma's van. Diane began enforcing gate hours strictly against us, 7 to 7, ignoring that Emma's therapy sometimes ran past sunset in winter. She fined us $200 for a late arrival, even after I texted photos proving we'd left therapy exactly on schedule. My neighbor Frank warned me quietly. She did this to the Alvarez family last year. They moved out crying within a month. I filed a formal accessibility complaint with the HOA board, but Diane was the board, chairing every committee that could challenge her. Diane changed the gate access code without notifying us, claiming it was routine security, though every other resident received an email. Emma missed a physical therapy appointment because our key fob suddenly stopped working, and Diane blamed a technical glitch, smirking slightly. I requested written HOA bylaws regarding gate access for medical vehicles. Diane stalled for 3 weeks, citing attorney review. A woman named Priya, new to the community, pulled me aside and whispered that Diane had altered bylaws before, quietly, unofficially. Diane posted in the community forum that certain residents were exploiting disability status for special privileges, never naming us directly. Comments piled up, some supportive, some cruel. Strangers debating my daughter's worth like she was a nuisance ordinance, not a child. I recorded every interaction after that. Dashcam rolling, emails saved. Sensing Diane was building toward something worse than fines, Diane demanded Emma's medical documentation be resubmitted for verification, despite it already being on file since our move-in 2 years prior. Complied, hands trembling with humiliation, watching Diane skim my daughter's diagnosis like she was auditing a suspicious expense report. That week, Diane quietly emailed the board proposing temporary restricted gate access during severe weather events, oddly specific, oddly timed. Nobody questioned it. Diane's proposals always passed unanimously, since dissenters mysteriously received code violations within days of disagreeing. For a moment things calmed. No notes. No fines. and I let myself believe Diane had finally lost interest in tormenting us. Emma even waved at Diane's grandson at the mailbox, and Diane offered a tight, almost human smile, confusing my cautious optimism. I later learned Diane's own son was a disabled veteran, hidden from community gossip, a fact she'd never once mentioned publicly. That truth made her cruelty stranger, sharper, like she resented in others the vulnerability she refused to acknowledge in her own family. The peace shattered when Diane accused Emma's van of leaking oil on shared pavement, though our maintenance records proved otherwise entirely. Turned out a maintenance worker later admitted Diane had ordered him to splash oil near our van just for the photo. Emma developed pneumonia that January, requiring frequent late-night transport, exactly the schedule Diane's new gate policy seemed designed to punish. Diane revoked our disability placard privileges within the community, calling it standardizing enforcement, a phrase she clearly rehearsed beforehand. I appealed directly to the county, learning Diane had never properly registered several bylaw changes, making her enforcement legally questionable. Diane found out about my county inquiry within a day. Someone on the board was clearly feeding her every move I made. She retaliated by scheduling gate maintenance for the exact evening of Emma's critical follow-up appointment, blocking our only route home. I begged for an exception, standing in freezing wind, while Diane calmly explained rules exist for everyone. No favorites. Dear. A blizzard warning scrolled across my phone that same afternoon, forecasting whiteout conditions arriving faster than anyone had predicted. I called Diane, pleading to leave the gate unlocked just one evening, since Emma's return trip would land after her curfew. Diane's voice turned syrupy sweet. I already told you. No exceptions. Then hung up before I could finish my sentence. Priya texted me a warning. Diane had told another neighbor she wanted to teach that family a real lesson this time. Snow thickened by 5 o'clock. Visibility dropping fast. And Emma's therapist called saying they needed to leave the clinic immediately. I drove toward the gate myself, headlights swallowed by snowfall, praying Diane hadn't actually locked it during an active storm warning. The chain glinted through swirling white, padlocked, exactly as Diane had promised, exactly as county law forbade during declared emergencies. I pounded on Diane's door, snow stinging my face, screaming that my daughter's van was stranded outside in a blizzard. Diane opened it slowly, wrapped in a cashmere robe, sipping cocoa, saying, "Rules are rules, Rachel, even in weather. She's disabled, Diane. She could freeze." I shouted, but Diane simply shrugged, murmuring something about consequences for repeated violations. I called 911, hands shaking violently, while Diane retreated inside, locking her own door against the very storm she'd trapped us in. Dispatch said emergency vehicles were delayed community-wide, roads already dangerous, response times stretching far longer than any of us could bear. Frank appeared with a snowplow attachment on his truck, shouting he'd known Diane would pull something ugly eventually. This bad. Priya arrived too, carrying blankets, saying she'd secretly recorded Diane bragging about the locked gate on her porch camera earlier. We worked frantically, trying bolt cutters, trying anything. Snow blinding us, wind screaming through the pines like a warning siren. My phone buzzed. Emma's therapist, voice tight, saying the van's heater was failing, temperature dropping fast inside the vehicle. Diane's porch light flicked off entirely, as if darkness might erase what she'd done, might silence our desperate shouting outside. Frank finally sheared the padlock, chain crashing into snowbank, and I sprinted toward headlights barely visible through the whiteout ahead. Emma's therapist had wrapped her in every blanket available, singing softly, keeping her calm while waiting on the wrong side. I reached the van, yanked the door open, and pulled my shivering daughter into my arms, sobbing into her frost-touched hair. Paramedics arrived minutes later, treating Emma for mild hypothermia, confirming she'd have faced serious danger without Frank's intervention that night. Priya handed me her phone. Footage clear. Diane laughing about the lesson she'd teach us, time-stamped hours before the storm hit. The county sheriff arrived, reviewing gate logs showing Diane had locked it manually, overriding automatic emergency release protocols required by law. News of a disabled teen trapped by her own HOA president spread fast. Neighbors finally speaking openly about years of quiet fear. Reporters called Diane for comment. She claimed miscommunication, but Priya's recording had already reached 3 local news stations by morning. Board members, suddenly brave, admitted Diane had altered bylaws unofficially for years, silencing anyone who questioned her authority. The county filed charges against Diane for reckless endangerment, citing the deliberate gate lockdown during an active blizzard emergency warning. A civil rights attorney contacted me, explaining Diane's actions violated federal accessibility protections, offering to represent our family for free. Diane's own hidden secret surfaced publicly. Her disabled veteran son hadn't spoken to her in years, ashamed of her cruelty. At the emergency board meeting, residents voted unanimously to remove Diane from her position, years of silent resentment finally erupting. Diane tried defending herself, insisting rules mattered more than sympathy, but even her closest allies refused to meet her eyes. She was escorted from the meeting room, stripped of keys,
gate codes,
and the authority she'd weaponized for over a decade. Weeks later, Diane pleaded guilty to reckless endangerment, receiving probation, community service, and a lifetime ban from HOA leadership roles. Our new HOA board approved permanent, automatic emergency gate release protocols, ensuring no family would ever face Diane's cruelty again. Emma recovered fully, and that spring, neighbors helped finish her long-delayed ramp, painting it bright blue, her favorite color. Watching Emma roll proudly down that ramp, gate wide open behind her, I finally exhaled the fear Diane had built for years.